Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Julie and I'm an event producer with Within 3. I'm here with my colleague Mariah. So if you have any questions or if you need any assistance, please feel free to reach out to us via the chat or the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. Please note that today's meeting is being recorded. And as you know, this meeting is confidential, so please do not take photographs, screenshots, or record the presentation. We appreciate all your contributions to today's discussion. So if at any point you'd like to ask a question, please use the Q&A button. Or you're also welcome to use the chat feature to add your comments. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Mariah if you have any questions or need any help. We appreciate your attention, and I'll pass it back to Angela to continue today's meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Well, welcome everyone to the webinar. Appreciate you making the time today. We asked and you answered. We appreciated all the feedback, and overwhelmingly, we got a great response for interest in Congress planning. So for today, we are going to review some recommendations and tips to help for your 2023 Congress planning season. We'll start with some intros. My name is Angela Labrosi. I'm the Channel Partner Director for Within 3. I work directly with our agency partners, and I've been in this industry for over 15 years, working with both medical affairs and commercial teams for their pre- and post-launch activities. Jacqueline, over to you.
Hello, everybody. I am Jacqueline Clark. I'm the product marketing manager here at Within 3. Been here about a year now. It's an exciting time here at Within 3 and excited to be here with all of you. Have spent a career in B2B tech, so excited to share a little about the technology that you guys can leverage as part of your Congress planning.
Great. So for today's agenda, over the next hour, we're going to start by taking a look at insights across the product life cycle from a top-level view, and then we'll drill down a little bit deeper, specifically into that traditional Congress model, feedback we've received from clients, and then pivoting to what does that modern approach look like? How can you implement an insights management model to maximize your Congress efforts? And we'll be talking about those technologies to best suit your needs. And then we'll end on that Q&A. So please, we definitely encourage you to use the chat or the Q&A feature, and we will cover those questions and comments towards the end of the webinar. So first, just looking at insights management across the product lifecycle and where we are starting to gather information and data from a number of different areas. So we know as early as R&D, we're collecting field insights from research and data strategy, and we're starting to look as we move into clinical trials, starting to understand that patient population and what that patient journey looks like. And we're receiving insights and feedback back from the clinical trial sites as well as the lead investigators. From there, we start to get a better understanding of what our disease landscape might look like and understanding, are we a new market entrant? Are we entering a crowded space? And what types of initiatives do we need to be implementing to set ourselves up for success as we move closer towards launch? What opportunities are there to close any educational gaps and any disease awareness? And then as we move towards that product launch, what considerations are there from not only a KOL perspective? Are we engaging the right people? Are we bringing diverse voices to the table? And also from a patient perspective, are we bringing diverse voices to the table? Are we understanding our communities and our customers? When we start to think about all of the programs and activities that are necessary for that success, we start to understand and identify that insight gap, because across all of that spectrum, we're gaining insights, we're gaining information and feedback from different areas. So whether that's from a geographical perspective, whether it's across our teams within an organization. And for those of you joining today, you might identify programs on this slide that might fall under your roles and responsibilities. Perhaps you're an agency partner that's helping your client implement some of these initiatives. So hopefully some of these are resonating with you, and you might start to think about, where are the insights that I'm collecting? How are those being shared with the organization on a greater scale? And then what are we doing with those insights once we have them? One area, of course, that we're going to focus on is those medical congresses. And one of the things that we would encourage you to start thinking about is not only how are we planning and how are we gaining those insights and what are we doing with them, not only 30, 60, 90 days out from a Congress, but in total across the year, how are we harnessing them and how are we sharing them among our teams? And what can we be doing after an event to prep us and better prepare us for that next event? We know many of you use congresses as a way not only for a big splash, if it's ready for a product launch, but maybe for setting the stage for that market awareness and disease awareness, especially if you are a new market entrant. So we're going to take a couple minutes just to take a look at status quo. Where are we at currently? And this is based on feedback from a lot of our clients that have shared with us, obstacles and areas of improvement that they've identified in their Congress planning. A couple of key themes surrounded strategy and participation, time and logistics, and insights. And so as they've been navigating the Congress landscape over the last couple of years, we all know it's vastly changed since prior to 2020, right? So we went from all of the Congresses going virtual, getting the attention of KOLs, engaging with them, and what were the tools that your teams were using? And then as we moved into 2022, we saw a nice pivot and shift of things coming back in person, obstacles to overcome. Certainly as flights have been a nightmare, people are still getting sick. And so our clients were still telling us, we're seeing last minute cancellations. We've planned an entire speaker event and everyone's in the room and then that person's not making it and they want to Zoom in. Is that the most effective way to communicate your message? Internally, are you considering who's attending the meeting? And so we'll talk about some of the ramifications there in terms of the attendance at the meeting versus who you have from your own internal team attending and how are those insights being gathered. So we'll start to take a look at before, during, and after where we currently are, and then what technologies can help us move ahead. So level setting from a pre-Congress planning, and this is definitely where we've worked quite extensively with a lot of our clients on this pre-Congress plan. Certainly timing, and for any of you that are using an agency, they would tell you, plan ahead, plan ahead, plan ahead. So how can we look ahead in terms of our logistics for our meeting? Again, thinking about who you want to participate, what kinds of programs will you be implementing? What kinds of data sets will you be sharing at that meeting? And so I know that's a large part of today, what a lot of your teams are working on. Existing list of KOLs. We hear time and again that our clients are relying on the same sets of KOLs, especially in an established market. It might be the same 10 or 12 individuals that you're using for your speaker events. And you might be using limited data sources. You might be relying on traditional methods of identifying those KOLs. So we'll start to understand, what other opportunities are there. Developing materials. We know that a large part of our teams that we work with, a great deal of time is spent on developing those materials, whether they're for booth activities, perhaps interactive or gamification type activities at your booth. And are you taking time to research if those are effective ways of engaging with your KOLs? Are those resonating with the key audience? Some events and some types of materials might resonate in one audience, but maybe not for another therapeutic area. And then certainly building in that time for that medical, legal, regulatory review and making sure we have ample time in advance of the Congress. And how are we tackling that? How are we making sure we have collaborative feedback in a timely and efficient manner? And then once we're at the Congress, these are some of the typical activities that our teams are engaged with. So collecting those insights live at the meeting, whether that's directly at the booth from any live presentations, perhaps it's expert panels, live symposia, perhaps if you're presenting abstracts at the meeting, think about how are you collecting that feedback? What's the measure of success that your team is currently using? Global representation, and this is really interesting. And being in this field for quite some time, I've definitely seen a shift, even pre-pandemic, and starting to see it again. Being here in the United States, so many of the congresses now were really having an even split amongst participants and where they were coming from. And so I was also starting to see a shift in companies diversifying who they were having represented at the booth. We want to make sure that you have appropriate contacts there to engage in these discussions, whether it's from a language perspective or a cultural perspective. So something to keep in mind that currently I think a lot of our clients are struggling with, but at the same time, who's going to be back home as you're collecting those insights? And we'll talk about the technologies that can help support that live versus virtual representation. And then ensuring team alignment. So again, from a global perspective, our activities mirroring across all of the different congresses, regional meetings, and any other meetings that you're facilitating. And then certainly that vendor management piece. Many companies are engaging multiple vendors, either through the Congress itself, through their agency of record. And so these are important points, not only for the client, but for their agency partner to be aware of, and how all of those pieces come together. And then that post-Congress strategy, equally as important, and in some cases more important, because we want to make sure all that time, effort, and budget that is spent, that we're seeing the value and rewards of our efforts. So perhaps you're creating executive summaries based on the events and next steps. You're bridging those conversations and relationships that you started to build at the meeting, and you're figuring out ways to continue those conversations. You're taking those field insights that from the individuals at the meeting, and you're figuring out ways to collect those and then act upon them. What are we going to do with those insights? How are we going to engage that KOL? And perhaps how will we take it a step further to see what other influence that KOL might have? And so we'll talk about the technologies to help enhance that as well. And lastly, just that post-Congress reflection. Again, coming back to that idea that we don't want things to end right there and then, just 1 month after the meeting. Think about ways that you can reflect within a given year leading up to the next Congress, whether it's another society or perhaps the following Congress, the following year. What are ways we can improve, and what are some other objectives and goals that we have? So I'd like to turn it over to Jacqueline to then start to pivot and help you understand the technologies and the ways that we can utilize insight management.
Thanks, Angela. So Angela just walked through a great kind of map of the way that current Congress planning and execution probably looks for all of you on the line today. I wanted to walk a little bit through how tech can help along the way. And I want to stay on this slide just a second to take a step back from each of the chapters of this story and really see this holistically as tech throughout the insights gathering initiative at a Congress, starting pre-Congress and understanding who should you even be talking to at that upcoming Congress, right? Angela brought up those same 10 or 12 tried and true experts you probably lean on, who are wonderful experts for you and your team, but could there be additional folks that you can take advantage of this Congress to start engaging with and start building relationships with? Planning presentations or abstracts, or your general presence at the Congress, really being able to actually leverage tech in new ways instead of maybe some of the ways you're leveraging tech today, to be able to help facilitate some of that planning before you're there. Thinking about social media, we've actually seen some trends in recent years in spiking in social media activity at Congresses, and more folks are engaging in these digital spaces as they're also live at a Congress, and you want to be able to take advantage of some of that. And of course, as Angela brought up, the critically important conversations that you're having with HCPs, that your team members are having, or that your clients are having with healthcare professionals at these Congresses, being able to have those discussions, gather those insights, manage those insights, discuss together within the team some of the insights that are just being gathered generally because of content that's being shared at the Congress, and bringing this all together so you can quickly act on it once the Congress is done. So let's step into what that pre-Congress can look like with tech. So first and foremost, I want you to think about this in two facets. One is leveraging tech to actually plan for the Congress, which is critically important, as I just brought up. And of course, a main part of this, and a question that was asked by many of you attending today on how you can best leverage tech to help plan for the Congress. Another part of strategic planning is strategic planning around what tech you will leverage while you are at the Congress to help you best execute. And so I want to talk about both of those things today. First, before we head to the Congress, one other kind of mindset shift I want to bring to the table today. As we think about insights gathering, maybe today you're milestone driven. You have these congresses, you have some ad boards, you have a couple of these dates on the calendar that are your time-bound events where you can gather insights. It's time we really saw this as a continuous effort. And that includes when we're looking at congresses. You don't have to wait until that Congress to really start gathering insights to help you on this journey. You can start to gather those insights before you even head there. And one of the core places to do that is social media. And maybe you guys aren't thinking about this today. Again, we've really just seen a recent spike in usage of social media within the industry. Listening to the conversations that are happening generally within your disease community. So those stakeholders, those healthcare professionals, even patients or payers online as they're discussing things around a disease or around a treatment opportunity for you. Being able to listen to those conversations in and of itself can help you gather some insights leading into a Congress. On top of that, it can actually help you refine some of what you're going to specifically be gathering at that Congress. It may already start to answer some questions for you and your team so that you can further refine, speaking of strategic planning, right? So you can further refine the questions that you have a unique opportunity to ask while you're at the Congress and have that opportunity to engage in those live conversations with folks that are there. Speaking of the folks that are there, being able to leverage disease community analytics. This is new within the industry, and this is really exciting technology that's being added that will allow you to understand the core hubs of influence and the core influencers within the disease community that you're definitely going to want to start generating relationships with. Angela, at the beginning of this presentation, talked about that timeline, whether you're just starting out and even before clinical research, or if you are already launching a product and looking to plan a bunch of congresses around that in the upcoming year. This is critically important to start to understand the folks you want to start creating those relationships with, establishing those relationships with outside of your same tried and true list of experts, and doing that leading into a Congress gives you that opportunity to start to build those relationships once you're there. So that's where that disease community analytics comes in and can really help you, not just to gather those insights, but also start creating those trusted relationships that can help even in commercialization as well. Of course, as we talk about pre-Congress, we want to talk about the planning that goes into it. Think about some of the tech you might use today. Maybe use email, maybe use some co-authoring platform, and please feel free to use the chat to talk amongst yourselves on how you brainstorm and how you get your team ready today to execute a Congress. Being able to leverage an online discussion space where folks can come together and edit documents, whether those be comments on posters or abstracts you're creating for the Congress, or even presentations that you're giving, or just having open conversations about the sessions that they plan to attend and who's attending what session and who's planning to glean what insights. Being able to have a dedicated conversation space online can help you best plan and really consolidate that planning effort across your team. And of course, when we talk about going there, some of that key content, some of that messaging that you're going to be potentially unveiling or testing at the Congress, as I said before, coming out of the mindset of seeing the Congress as your opportunity to gather insights and really seeing it as a continuous engine in a way where the Congress is just a milestone in that, you can start to gather some of that feedback on content, on messaging by having those online conversation spaces open ahead of the Congress with external stakeholders to start to get feedback and again, help refine what you're even presenting at the Congress. So a lot can happen and a lot of tech is available for you to be able to even further enhance some of these pre-Congress processes. So Once we've gotten to this point, we are now ready to actually head to the Congress. And it's important to talk about how we can leverage the same type of tech while we're there to gather insights. And remember the kind of direction I gave on that last slide, that here is your opportunity as part of your strategic planning to start to plan what tech you can actually leverage while at these congresses to best gather these insights. Continuing on the social media theme, as I keep saying, we're seeing a huge spike in this. There's an opportunity not just to gather insights from the conversations you are in at that Congress, but also gather insights from the conversations happening around you at that Congress, specifically on social media. So being able to continue to track some of the social conversations specifically happening around that Congress, for instance, leveraging the Congress hashtag, is really important to continue to glean, to understand some of what's being talked about. Having some huddles around presenting that content to those healthcare professionals, or huddles among your specific team. Still important to have an online space where you can continue to gather insights, both from your team and those healthcare professionals. And the cool thing about having an online discussion space as well, let's say that you had an opportunity maybe to have an advisory board, a live advisory board while you're at that Congress with the experts that happen to be there. But unfortunately, some of those experts that we gleaned from that disease community analytics, as well as some of the experts that you may already have in mind, aren't able to make it. You're able to actually bring that conversation online, and even while you're at the Congress, engage some of the stakeholders who aren't even able to be there, so that folks can feel like they are part of those conversations. And again, you can continue to glean the insights from folks both there and not there while you're at the Congress. One more piece, and I want to take a moment on this, is gathering these field insights one-on-one. Maybe you have an MSL team, maybe you have a field team that is specific meetings set up with specific healthcare professionals while they're at the Congress. How are you gathering those notes today? How are they collating those notes and sending them to the rest of the team? Maybe it's email, maybe it's a spreadsheet, maybe you do have a technology tool. But really investing in a purpose-built tool that allows that team to gather those notes into a centralized space where folks are live, able to see a feed of these observations as they're coming in from these one-on-one conversations, and even a tool that might be able to analyze those observations as they're coming in to understand some of the trends and pick up some of the key concepts that are coming out of those observations and those conversations can be key to quickly acting on those after the Congress. So again, feel free to chat away on this webinar with other attendees and talk about how you're doing this today, but know that there is technology out there to also help even with that very specific part of gathering insights at a Congress. And again, I brought this up earlier, being able to create a space advantage of the ability to have live conversations at these congresses. But as you start to glean insights from that, being able to engage folks that aren't even there in an online forum of some sort in an asynchronous session allows folks to continue to engage together, whether they are there or not, that even enhances your ability to gather insights during that time. So I know this is a lot, but there's so much opportunity here to really be able to leverage technology to enhance this insights gathering initiative specifically around a Congress. So now you've done all this great work, right? Pre-Congress, you've listened to the conversations online, you've planned effectively internally, you've executed well at the Congress, you've gathered all of these insights. Now what? So post-Congress, we want to both continue these conversations and very quickly analyze these insights that are coming in to turn them into answers as quickly as possible. Social media listening doesn't stop at the Congress. The conversation will continue after the Congress. Folks that have been involved in session after session and meeting after meeting will have many thoughts on their flights home, as well as for the weeks following, and being able to continue to analyze that conversation happening on social media will be key. On top of that, potentially watching if you guys gave a presentation or provided some insight at that event, being able to watch and see if there was impact that you had on the conversation happening in that digital space is really important and might even be a key metric for success that you want to bring back internally to the rest of your team and to teams around the company. Of course, continuing to track opportunities, continuing to build the relationships with those healthcare professionals. We talked all the way at the beginning about the disease community analytics that helps you determine who you should be building relationships with. Now is the time to continue to build those relationships. So continuing to track the conversations that you're having with those folks, that your team is having with those folks, whether it is one-on-one or continuing to engage them in online conversations together. Again, creating online forums. And not only is that helpful with external stakeholders, but your team will come back with so many ideas and so many thoughts after many busy days of gathering insights and learning things from the market. It's important that you also continue those conversations, again, in a space that helps everybody have visibility into the insights that folks are sharing and be able to collaborate, not just email chains, not just some kind of internal messenger chain, and not just one-on-one conversations that are happening siloed, really having a central space where the team can truly collaborate and add their insights. Potentially thinking about leveraging a similar online space for you to post all that content, all the stuff that you created for that Congress, to actually provide those available for any internal stakeholders to take advantage of, and even thinking about how you might be able to post those for external stakeholders as well, to continue conversations around and potentially leverage in their day-to-day. And of course, as I said, important to all of this is being able to analyze all these insights coming in from all these different directions, quickly understand and see trends in some of the concepts that are being brought out, and being able to turn that into action, leveraging technology. And you'll hear things like artificial intelligence and natural language processing. This is just technology behind the scenes, of course, somewhat new on the scene in this industry, that will help you analyze these insights as they're coming in. You're getting so many more insights thanks to this technology you're now able to use. And now you're able to analyze it just as quickly, if not even faster, to turn that into action after the Congress. So this was a lot. I know it was a lot. So as we start to look at this, let's take a step back and actually take a look at this tech and what we refer to it here at Within3, but where we see the opportunity for you guys. So what is the technology behind all of this, behind all these concepts and the many bullets you just saw on that slide? What really can drive success? And that's where a true insights management system comes in. And I want to take a step back before we step too deeply into the technology. And again, in terms of mindset, think about all of these efforts that you're trying to do as a team as your insights management system. The processes, the people involved, and the technology are all your system for gathering and managing insights. So how do you do that most effectively? The way that we see it, and in working with clients where we see the key opportunities, is again that disease community analytics and gathering insights from the market at large, whether that's on social media or just better understanding where are the centers of influence and where do the core influencers exist in our world today and in your market. Then actually engaging those folks and engaging as many diverse voices as you can to gather as many insights to drive some of the decisions that you or your colleagues are looking to make and answer some of the questions that you need answered, being able to engage as many of those folks as possible, and ultimately leveraging technology then to trend and report on those insights as they're coming in. This entire thing can be your insights management system. So if we step ahead and talk a little bit about how this can be applied in other ways, because again, I know this was a lot and we were kind of in the weeds of an actual medical congress. When Angela shared this at the beginning, she of course brought up medical congresses in the context of launch. Maybe some of you are here, maybe some of you are getting here, maybe some of you are post-launch, but hopefully this can help you visualize where you can leverage this technology across the board, really. When we look at launches, congresses are only a piece of that. And again, as I had brought up earlier, see congresses as one slight milestone in a continuous insights gathering engine and initiative. And again, this technology really enables you guys to do that. So before launch, having those advisory boards, getting some initial feedback from the market. I brought up message testing and content feedback, great examples of how you can start to gather feedback even before you're heading to congresses and before you're ready to launch this and have the educational discussions with the healthcare professionals during launch. Also understanding that disease community and trying to understand who are all the folks that you'd want to engage, not just at an upcoming Congress, but throughout the year, throughout the course of your launch. Where are your targets for your field team and for your sales team, right? All of these things can be determined thanks to this technology. And then understanding some treatment patterns out in the space and understanding where treatment is happening and some competitor activity. We talked about social monitoring and social media. That's another way that you can leverage social media in this story, is being able to watch when competitors are getting mentioned, or even being able to track some of their activity on there as well. And then leveraging the same technology, again, in each of the different congresses, right, that you have on your timeline as you're actually launching, and then in the field team deployment and tracking all of that activity, as I brought up earlier. If we step outside of congresses, zoom out just slightly, again, that's just one milestone. And over the course of an entire launch, and even planning for an entire launch, you can really leverage this technology to take that to the next level. So as we start to talk about what that insights management system can really entail across the course of an entire timeline of a product lifecycle, if we head to the next slide, you'll be able to see the extent of what this insights management system can be and what it can be for you, right? So as we talked about the tech earlier and what the tech can be as part of an insights management system, you'll see on the right similar vocabulary to what I was using earlier, the insights trending and reporting, the stakeholder and field engagement, really being able to have a central place where you're managing these insights and ultimately understanding your community better. Think about all the ways that you're dealing with the stuff on the left right now, right? Angela had brought up that insights gap graphic earlier. This is exactly what we're talking about. You're getting some patient feedback, learning things at medical congresses. You're gathering, insights from conversations one-on-one through field teams. You're having advisory boards. You're having steering committees. Maybe you're even watching some social media right now. But a lot of times this tends to be siloed. And we saw that this was having some negative implications on how well and how effective teams can be in gathering insights. This is a lot to manage, and it can be quite chaotic. We see that, we feel that, we hear the stress from that. Be able to think of your insights management system as something that helps you gather all of this stuff, manage all of this stuff, and ultimately analyze. And again, as I said earlier, this is a true marriage of people, process, and tech. Tech is a piece of the story, but there is such exciting opportunity with technology. So finally, as we just want to give a little bit of a preview of what this can look like, though I encourage you all to continue this conversation after this. We'll give you a little sneak peek later into how the conversation will continue over the coming days, and how maybe for you, if you've already been in contact with us at Within 3, can continue this conversation with us. This is some of what the tech side of that insights management system can look like. From on the left-hand side, you're seeing a map of your disease community, understanding the top influencers within that community, understanding institutions that are true centers of influence that you definitely want to focus on. Then, of course, having an application online that allows you to engage with as many experts as possible, whether that is experts within your team as they are engaging amongst themselves at a Congress, or you are engaging with stakeholders out in the field, leveraging this type of technology to enable them to respond and add commentary as they have time all around the world, allowing globally folks to collaborate on a conversation platform that is truly online and built for this. And of course, at the end of all of this, having a clear dashboard into what is trending, what concepts are coming up over and over again, what's aligned with what I was already looking for, what's part of my strategy. I was wondering about patient readiness, but all of a sudden treatment and diagnosis is coming up a lot, right? What are the trends that are coming up in these conversations that folks are having with these healthcare professionals? And what are the trends even amongst my team over the course of time? So this is a little preview of what this technology can look like, but we can go much deeper with you as you'd like, if you'd like to follow up after this webinar. But this can hopefully just drop some ideas in your mind as you're watching this and thinking about as you strategically plan for 2023 and you strategically plan for your congresses, the different things that are available to you to take advantage of to help you be most effective. So finally, taking a full step back, coming all the way back to that life cycle. Again, we zoomed way in, focusing on congresses, which we know are so important to you. As Angela said, we asked, you answered, you told us that that was top of your mind for 2023, but you could be anywhere on this life cycle. And the amazing thing is technology like what we talked through today, as well as just the thought of thinking through your insights management system and what that looks like and what it could look like to be most effective, can be true and can be applied across the course of a life cycle, whether you are just looking into a new market or you are ready to launch your product. This technology can really be transformative for what you're trying to do and help you be most effective to bring those insights home and turn some insights into answers. So I think at this point, Angela, I'll turn it back over to you.
Sure, absolutely. So before we jump into questions, just wanted to tell everybody that we're going to be inviting you to continue this conversation. So much like in a true Congress setting or an event setting, we want the conversation to continue. We want to hear your feedback. We've actually engaged the help of some of our current clients to share their experiences and some case studies. So join us on our engagement application platform. So after this, you will actually receive an invitation from us that you can accept. And so you'll actually, have some firsthand experience using that technology and give you a sense of what that looks like. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And that will start to launch tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So we did have a couple of questions. So we'll just use some of the remaining time for that. And please, if any other questions or comments come to mind, please feel free to send those over. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen just so you all can see us a little more clearly. But hopefully, we covered a lot about congresses, as Jacqueline said. It was a lot of information about the technology, but certainly our hope is that you walked away with some, recommendations and tips of best practices and things to consider. One of the questions that we received, and we touched on a little bit, but we could go a little bit deeper, is in regards to engagements and engaging with customers and how you can go about doing that. So I can start with that, for a bit, Jacqueline, and then if you have anything else to add. But it is one of the main areas of application for our software is engaging with those customers. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves on for us at Within3 is the user-friendly nature and the accessibility of the platform for anybody to use it. So we've really pioneered it so that anybody has the ability to log in. It is a proprietary software in terms of from a privacy setting and a compliance standpoint. So users would receive an invitation from us, and you can really engage any target audience that you have. So it doesn't just have to be MDs. What is unique is that this is purpose-built for life science companies. So we're not working with other companies outside the life science space. So we have taken that into consideration. So you can even go beyond physicians. It could be nurses, payers, patients. We do quite extensive work with patient engagement. So just know that there's a lot of flexibility there, and you have a team supporting you as well. So something else to keep in mind from a bandwidth perspective as we start to think about all of the programs that your team is involved with. We understand that, and we understand time constraints. So everything we do comes with a dedicated team to assist with that, both from the engagement standpoint as well as those analytics that we discussed as well. So they will help ensure success and participation amongst those engagements. And then certainly on the flip side, internally as well, so we can engage from that standpoint. Jacqueline, wasn't sure if you had anything else to add.
No,
Mhm.
no, I think that was perfect. And I do see we have another question too that came in around when we talked about strategic planning, we talked about choosing healthcare professionals and understanding your disease community and analyzing your disease community. And it looks like we have a question about how to identify the right regions and the right investigators potentially for a clinical trial even, or any of your efforts. It's a wonderful, wonderful question. And I think something on that side of things to keep in mind, Angela was talking about how we are here to help at Within 3, and that absolutely is included in that. So the way we look at disease community analytics is twofold. I think one is being able to gather the data and analyze the data to quickly understand those key connections, those key centers of influence, the opportunities regionally. You saw the screenshot I quickly showed up as a preview that you can literally see a map, and we see that as important, that you see a true map of where might be centers you'd want to focus on, whether that's a clinical trial strategy or a commercialization strategy, right, and a marketing strategy. But another piece of that is our team's approach to this is that we would really work with your team specifically around this to dive into your unique needs and who would be what you're looking for, who would be a great investigator for you, what specific disease are you focused on, and what specific kind of subspecialties are you interested in. Being able to bespoke understand that data and really see a clear map and top investigators for you or top healthcare professionals for you to engage. Our team works directly with you, and we've approached it that way for a reason. We believe that's the fastest way to the answer you're looking for versus filtering through data on your own, being able to have some tech analytics applied and then some human help as well to really understand where are your opportunities. Again, no matter where you are in that life cycle, but I know the question came in specifically around investigators. So I think that's a core part of that. Angela, anything to add to that?
No, I think that really covered it. Quite honestly, yeah. No, I think that was good.
Awesome.
Okay. Couple more questions that came in. One actually came in from one of our agency partners, and so I'll just quickly touch upon that. Because I know some of you joined the call today, and for anybody watching the recording. So we frequently collaborate with agency partners, predominantly a lot of companies involved in medical communications, but as well as we do work with many CROs, clinical teams, and commercial teams as well. So we do offer a free agency partnership program. This is actually really beneficial for clients to be aware of, that their agency can become certified on the Within 3 platform, so they're knowledgeable and feel confident in running sessions and engagement applications and supporting the disease dashboard. But then from an agency perspective, we do welcome teams that are interested in learning more about the technology and how they can utilize it. Again, since when we think about that product lifecycle, any of the initiatives that you're working with your medcoms team on, the platform can support. So it is definitely something worthwhile for them to leverage and have that expertise. The other thing that was brought up in the chat in terms of, I spoke a little bit before about those stakeholder engagements and messaging. And that really is a critical component for Congresses, but for any of the planning that you're working on. It's so critical to understand that your message is resonating with the market, understanding those diverse voices and making sure you have as many audiences and the feedback as necessary. So it's something in my past life and planning, many times, budget permitting, we'd only go after our primary target audience. But maybe down the road, we know we're going for a different indication, or maybe there is a secondary or tertiary audience that we'd like to find out about. having the technology in place allows you to do that in a very cost efficient manner. And instead of having to fly, 4 or 5 different sets of audiences in one room, you can simply engage with them as needed. And similarly, from a geographic perspective, if you're launching globally, and you have different teams, you can also do that very effectively in one platform. So something to keep in mind there. And Jacqueline, if you didn't have anything else on that, I actually had one other comment just from a tips and recommendations. Just was thinking about this as you were talking about, that post-Congress and what we're doing from an internal perspective. It's something, actually, just coincidentally, some of the meetings I've gone to over the last year, and as we've been speaking with clients, I found from a measure of success, those clients that made a really concerted effort to have those internal sessions and make sure they're having milestone points. So a month, 2 months, 3 months after that Congress, did they match their goals? Was everybody, did they complete their assignments? Are they following up with those KOLs, with the insights that they collected? So I think it's also something to keep in mind, utilizing that technology to really complete the circle full scale and make sure that you are maximizing that time. So it is one thing that we really recommend, and this is tech aside, put in the time to plan it and put in that time for your teams to get together. And it might be that using an asynchronous technology where people can do it on their own time makes that effective, versus if you plan something and not everybody from the team shows up. Is that an effective use of the time? Is everybody's voice being heard from your teams? And again, geographically, if you've got a global team that's coming together, we want to make sure that the full team is on board with the next set of action plans. So I just wanted to give that recommendation because it's something we've seen great success from our clients.
And we've seen that internally as well. Like we drink our own Kool-Aid on this, and we're also learning because we also want to gather insights from the market, right? We're really similar in that we use congresses and conferences definitely for that. And so we've started to really change the way that we're leveraging, yes, our own technology, but also various technology to really help us do that. So know that we're not only speaking from experience with clients, as Angela brought up, but from experience ourselves, and how effective we can really be at this. And I've seen we've used our own asynchronous sessions that have been so successful for us. And it's really great to collaborate that way too.
Exactly. The hybrid model works really well. And, this session, again, we practice what we preach. This is a perfect example of marrying together the live. And actually, we will be live in a couple of weeks. Jacqueline and I are in 2 different locations, but we'll be coming together live. And then we will have touch points after that asynchronously and virtually. So we want you all to experience that on the engagement application session. And we really do hope you participate. I think it's going to give you a really nice sense of what the technology can offer. And as you're going through it, just keep in mind, it's very flexible. So really any type of engagement you have in mind, the system can work with that. It's very agile. And for the training component we have for our agency partners, they all anecdotally tell me they have that aha moment when they're on the engagement application and they can, see where they can implement their initiatives for their clients to gain as much feedback as possible.
Yep.
Great. Just checking if it looks like, I think those were the bulk of our questions. I know we have some elaboration within the engagement session for a few of those questions too that we thought would be worthwhile so they can see it in practice. But yeah, so keep a lookout for that invitation to come in your inbox. Certainly reach out to us if you have any technical problems, but typically it's very straightforward and the login is very straightforward as well. Jacqueline, any other last thoughts? If not,
Nothing. Hopefully this leaves you guys with some nuggets, some tips and tricks that you can take home with you from this and apply as you look to strategically plan for 2023. And that's all. Great. Thank you all so much.